I did it on purpose that time. Ethan Skolnick, come to you from Los Angeles, right across the street from Staples Center. They could not hold me at the airport, so I am here. I'll be here for Lakers Heat and also for Clippers Heat tomorrow night, although 2 of the 5 biggest stars in the league will not be playing against the Heat the next 2 nights. No LeBron tonight, and, of course, no Kawhi tomorrow night. Lakers come in struggling. A lot of talk here about what's going on with Frank Vogel and the defense. We'll get into that in a second. Before we do, we'll tell you about a couple of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and, of course, also of Before Floor. We started with Biscayne Bay Brewing. I don't know if I can get it out here, but you can get it in Florida. You can get the Tropical Bay IPA. We found the Marlins Lager on the menu at the quarterdeck the other night. This is the official beer of the Miami Marlins, also of 5 Reasons Sports. This is the one that you want to ask for. They got the Biscayne Bay Regatta, the Tropical Bay IPA, the Marlins Lager, and, of course, the Pastime Pilsner. And they're just adding new beers all the time. The Miami Pale, I have not tried the La Colada yet. I have to get around to that. Biscayne Bay Brewing, again, they've got kiosks at the FTX Arena in Miami in the 100 level and also the 300 level. And they've got a big party coming up I believe it's Saturday. Check our Twitter, the Twitter feed there at Biscayne Bay Brew. They've got a party for the Miami FSU game and the rest of the college football games. So make it more interesting. Drink beer, because we know that those 2 programs are down a little bit. Also, check out our great sponsor, markbrownpa.com. That's MARC, brownpa.com. This is where you want to go if you need to do any estate planning. If you're a young person with a family, you certainly want to make sure that your family is protected. So go to markbrownpa.com. That's MARC, brownpa.com, based right there in North Lauderdale, just north of Cypress Creek Road off of Andrews. He will take the time to work with you. He's really, his staff is terrific, and they helped me with a couple of closings as well. You can see there they'll handle debt defense, bankruptcy, real estate litigation, probate. They handle everything. And markbrownpa.com. Reach out to him. Big Miami sports fan. There's the phone number, 954-566-5678. 954-566-5678. That's markbrownpa.com. All right, let's get to it. Here's who we've got today. Alejandro Villegas, our producer. Next to me, we've got Jonathan Ramlakan. Next to him, you can follow him at 3-Piece Combo. You can follow Brady Hawk, of course, at Brady Hawk 305. He was with us for our watch party loss the other night, so we apologize. It was Brady's fault. Ricky J. Mark right there in the middle, and, of course, Greg Sylvander, one of the hosts of 5 on the Floor. Heat Lakers tonight. I always start this way. Brady, who's in, who's out?
Yeah, I think I saw the Lakers have like 10 available players. So that's a pretty interesting place to start. But Miami's pretty much no better. There was a bunch of guys on the injury list. I saw something that Tyler and Bam were going to play, but actually I'm not so sure about that because I think Spo said it's like the same, that they're both questionable still. So they'll probably will both play, but it'll wait until the last second per usual. PJ Tucker's had no update. And then they're without Max Strus and Markieff Morris. So even if all 3 of those guys play that we're discussing, there's still an extra guy in there that they're going to have to throw in the rotation. So that's kind of the interesting part about this game.
Greg, this is one of Brady. Thank you, Greg. This is one of the things we've talked about here. Again, and again, the Lakers are. I mean, we can't really compare the Heat situation to the Lakers. They don't have LeBron. Okay, so I mean, nobody's going to feel sorry for the Heat as long as Jimmy's playing tonight. But this is one of the situations we've talked about. The Heat have some roster spots that are kind of not really being used, right? No Oladipo, one spot being saved for the tax. Obviously, Caleb Martin is playing as a 2-way. But could we actually see Udonis tonight? I'm feeling no Markieff Morris. Would you or is we're going to see Yurtseven possibly, or they go small?
See, initially I thought small was the answer here, but if Strus is not going to play, then I think that Yurtseven could get a shot. Like I think that especially knowing that they're managing a back-to-back situation and they're going to want to just curb minutes. I don't think that they're going to overplay Dedmon in a situation like this. So I think Yurtseven definitely may get a shot tonight, which is fun to think about. And the other thing about this game, like I really hope the Heat it's funny that they're in LA playing the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, because the Heat need to get back to that Showtime level of run and gun basketball. So I'm really hoping they find their identity again tonight, because that thing in Dallas, that was not that.
And of course, Matt'll be in the building tonight. He makes this trip every year, and now that they've combined the Heat and the Lakers, Heat and the Clippers, the Lakers and the Clippers, my understanding is he'll be there. Of course, Andy will be in the building just in case anything breaks out in the back to make sure that he takes care of that. Jonathan, to you on this, the Heat have lost 3 games at this point. 1 in Indiana without Lowry. I think we kind of threw that one out, right? The game against Boston, which we kind of wrote off as a bit of a clunker. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well. Felt like a little bit of a trap game. And then Denver, they never win in Denver. So I feel like Heat fans are kind of brushing all 3 losses aside because there were extenuating circumstances. But there's no extenuating circumstance the Heat are dealing with tonight that is a bigger deal than the best player in the past 20 years not playing on the other side, right? Like, no excuses tonight.
Yeah, there's definitely no excuses. I mean, we kind of alluded to it earlier, how the Lakers are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. We've seen time and time again this season, they've collapsed a lot. I mean, they've almost blew the game against the Hornets. I think they were up 15, and they gave it up to go into overtime. So they're blowing games left and right. They're having collapses all over the place. Like you said, they don't have LeBron as well, and they're not a superior shooting team, right? Mm-hmm. With all that combined, I think we should, like you said, there's no excuses for tonight, right? Regardless who we don't have, like you said, we have Jimmy. We have our best player. More than likely, we're going to have Bam, and then we'll have Kyle as well. So we're going to have 3 of our 4 best players. You know, if Tyler Hero sits out or if he plays, we'll have our 4 best players to go. There's no excuses for tonight. Those guys are going to have to carry it.
Ricky, Anthony Davis is thought of in many places as a top 5 to 10 player in the league.
When healthy.
But if you are that, right? Like, if you are that, like, then LeBron's absence this season for a lengthy period of time should not keep him from leading you to a playoff spot, right?
Yeah, but the thing we've learned about AD is that he can't carry a team by himself. We saw that in New Orleans, and we're seeing that in LA. This Lakers team is a 500 team with, 4 or 5 Hall of Famers, arguably the same amount of top 75 greatest players. I believe Dwight was snubbed. I mean, there's no reason why this Lakers team should be this bad thus far this season. They have struggled, kind of like what Ron Khan just said. They have struggled to beat just about every single one of these teams that they've played. I have yet to see a comfortable victory from the Lakers. You would think that with AD, Russ, and even Melo out there, they should be just fine because on paper, they should be. But they haven't been. It's a combination of fit. It's a combination of the way Vogel is getting these guys in their proper spots. I will leave that kind of analysis to Brady. But ultimately, this Lakers team is not where they should be. And while I hope they win a title this year, it doesn't look good for them right now.
You know, and this is mentioned that Melo's been shooting lights out. By the way, we'll get your comments up there on the super chat, of course, if you want to send us a little bit to pay for my Los Angeles trip or for other people here on the show. You could do that. We'll always read the comments. Thanks, Marcus. We always appreciate you following. I'll say this, though. Even with LeBron, Brady, this roster made no sense. Like, I know everybody's attributing it to that, but I mean, the conventional wisdom with LeBron, particularly since he went to Miami for those 4 years, was surround him with shooters, right? Allow him to play the 4 at times, get him a mobile big to play with who can play above the rim, okay, which he already has in AD, and get defenders around him so that if LeBron wants to be lazy defensively, he's got other guys who can pick up the best player. They literally didn't do any of that this offseason. Yeah. They just brought in his friends, right? I mean, that's what it looks like. And so I don't even know that, again, he makes them different, but I don't see them as title contenders regardless.
Wow. Yeah, lucky that his closest friend is shooting way above his head, like we're talking about with Carmelo Anthony, because they added no shooters, but Carmelo Anthony's been a shooter since they got him. And if he wasn't shooting like that, this team would be in a much, much worse spot. So having a veteran like that step up, the defense has been the interesting part. Obviously, they're missing a couple of their best defenders, which is an area for Miami, I think, to exploit when you have no Jimmy Butler, wing defender to throw out of another guy, Duncan Robinson. I don't think you have a guy that can trail him all night, so he could probably get open as well. But this Lakers team is kind of all over the place. It looks like a team that nobody wants to accept their role, which is weird for a LeBron team. Like you touched on, maybe the AD thing with not wanting to play center. Is Kendrick Nunn a point guard? Is he a shooting guard? Like, it seems like a bunch of guys that just don't really know what they are. Obviously, Melo accepted the 6-man role. So it's just kind of weird all around that. And then you have the DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard thing, which, by the way, Udonis Haslem playing makes a lot of sense because he'd probably be matching the Dwight Howard minutes. So if there was a night for him to play,
I didn't think about that.
Last time.
That's fun. Let's hope that happens.
3 or 4 minutes. Give him 3 or 4 minutes and see what happens, I guess. Honestly, I don't know where they would go because Omer next to Dedmon just seems very, very slow. Like, unless they were to move PJ down to the bench or something.
Can you
like
play Caleb at the 4 a little bit tonight? I feel like that might be a direction, or maybe Jimmy at the 4 with Caleb at the 3.
Yeah, I don't think you could play Caleb at the 4, but I think Spo thinks you could play Caleb at the 4 just because they've talked so much that he's like a Jimmy filler, which I don't see exactly the Jimmy filler stuff, but I think they go in that direction. I don't know if I would against a team that plays AD at the 4, but it seems like something that's possible.
Hey, listen to these crazy stats. I have to rattle these off. Carmelo Anthony is shooting 65% from 3 in home games this year. He's 38 of 59. He's only 1 of 16 on the road. That's hilarious. And here's the other one. The Lakers bench is shooting 43% from 3. Their starters are shooting 27% from 3. That's the largest disparity. So what a weird team.
No, they are. And actually, when we had Sedano on last night, and people should check out the podcast, we did edit out the bleeps the second time around, so you guys can go jump on that. But George mentioned this, and I thought this was a good comparison. And Ricky, you can take this, and then we'll go back to Jonathan. I thought this was a good comparison because
Ethan,
go ahead.
We're gonna play right after this because we just have Eric Spoelstra because it's only him. Play
the whole thing with or without the beeps. I don't really George.
No, we'll cut that part.
I'm seeing George in the building tonight, so if he's got a problem, he can ask me directly. But Ricky, going back to you on this, he mentioned that it reminds him a little bit of the team that was constructed in Cleveland that included Dwayne and Jay Crowder and Isaiah Thomas, and basically they had to they totally reshuffled that thing during the season, right? Like that to me, that was a pretty apt comparison. Like that team just didn't fit.
I will take it one step further. Not only is that team a good comparison, but the very first Cavs team that he played with when he came back, because they were a 500.
Yes,
they were a 500 team, treading water until they started making trades midway through the season, trading away Dion. I'm sure you could speak to that, given I believe you were covering them then.
I was literally in the building the night Dion was traded. I was in Philadelphia. He was so excited, Ricky, because he was going to start in front of his home fans that he had his high school teacher in the box, and I actually spent some time with him. And literally, he was announced for warm-ups, pulled to the back, and Raja Bell, who we all know from FIU, but he was working with the Cavs at the time, had to pull Dion aside and said, "You can't go out to the court. We just traded you."
Yeah, well, he's rich. He'll be all right. But yeah, look, it makes sense, and I think we, as you know, I guess as the resident historian, I guess. I think we should all learn a lesson from this. Don't let your players build your teams. Right. Leave that to the professionals. Leave that to the GMs. Because just if I were to take it back to the late 80s, if Chicago had kept Charles Oakley and not traded for Bill Cartwright in, I think, 87 or 88, that team wouldn't have been able to do the things that Phil Jackson wanted them to do in that early three-peat. They had to get Bill Cartwright because they had nothing up front. Michael was furious at that deal. He was furious that the Bulls selected Pippen instead of Olden Polynice. I'll let you figure out who had the better career. So ultimately, basically, Ethan, what both of us are saying is stop letting your stars build your teams. This is just like those teams. There are going to be moves, but I think this time around it's going to be a lot harder because Melo's not going anywhere.
No.
And Russell makes way too much money to be moved. Right. Who's going to take him? And that would destroy. I mean, Mike. I'll let you.
I want to hear Brady talk about Bill Cartwright. Actually,
well, yeah, no, Brady,
let's go, Brady.
Bill Cartwright is? No,
I've never seen him play. I know who it is.
Well, he coached for a little bit. You might have been alive for that. I'm not really sure. No, but Ricky, you make a great point. They don't have the flexibility to flip it this time. That's the difference. But the other thing, and I want to pivot back to the Heat here before we get the picks, and I actually go across the street to go inside the arena. Apologize to everybody who doesn't want me in there, but it was already booked. So what can I do? But I'll say this. This is the difference. You mentioned it, Ricky. This is why if LeBron had simply stayed in Miami, he would have been better off long-term because they had someone else who was going to make the decisions in Pat Riley and was going to tell LeBron basically to deal with it. And the reality is LeBron did deal with it. They didn't ship guys out during the Big Three era. They didn't. They added pieces, but nobody really went out the door. Yes, Ricky. Who else? Well, Mike Miller. But he didn't want that. I know what you're going to say, but he didn't want him shipped out. That's what I'm saying. he didn't get his way in terms of constructing the roster. Pat constructed the roster, and that's kind of how that thing went. All right, let's get to the picks tonight. Again, we appreciate our sponsors, Biscayne Bay Brewing. We'll go to you next, Greg, and then Jonathan. Well, I'll go to Jonathan, then Greg.
No, that's Bill Cartwright's form. That's all that is.
No, I know it was.
Oh, yeah, it's like...
I rooted for Bill Cartwright when he was in the Knicks. That's how old I am. Thanks again to our sponsors, markbrownpa.com, and of course, Biscayne Bay Brewing, and also Prize Picks. Use that code 5. Jump on there. We've had like a bunch of signups the last few days. I would play Jimmy over in rebounds tonight. That's my pick tonight. Whatever it is, I don't even know. I think it's probably like 6.5 or 7. I would go over with Jimmy on rebounds tonight. Jonathan, your pick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami. I feel like we have the more solid team. Having Kyle Lowry, we don't have that fluctuation like the Lakers are kind of having this year, having so many collapses. We're going to have to not overcommit on defense. I felt like with the game with the Nuggets, we kind of went to our last year tendencies, creating a lot of mismatches for Jokic. So I don't want to see Caleb Martin or Tyler Hero on Anthony Davis at all. I'm curious to see how Bam plays against another elite big, right? We know he struggles against elite bigs. Hopefully he can get it going. And I'm curious to see if Tyler Hero is, if he's a little bit hurt, who else steps off that bench, especially losing Marcus as well. So I think that he get it done, and I think we get it done by like 8 points.
We don't have an update on Bam or Hero yet, right? We still don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he holds one of them out because they do have another game tomorrow night too, which I feel like they feel like they have to get at least one of these first 3. Greg, what are you thinking tonight?
I think the Heat cover. I think they're -3, right? So they're somewhere around there. I think they cover and they get this one. Jimmy is 6.5 rebounds. I think you're right. He's going to go over there. Let me give you my prize pick of the night. Duncan Robinson is over 3.5 threes. I'm going to go crazy with you guys. He's going over tonight.
3.5. That's a high number considering how he started the season. I thought they'd put it at 2.5 at the most because, again, they use those 0.5s. Brady, you have still not predicted a Duncan Robinson game this year. Is it coming tonight?
Yeah, I was actually going to say that. I think I'm going to take Greg's point and I'm going to raise it. I'm saying a 6+ 3-point night tonight. I think this is a Duncan game. Like, this feels like a Dunk game defensively for the Lakers. I don't think they have somebody that can chase around Duncan all night. I think he's going to get open looks, and if he can just knock them down, I think Miami wins this. I like Miami's defense against this Lakers team. If you look at them, how they're constructed, it's going to be a lot of isolation possessions for Russell Westbrook, for Anthony Davis, all these type of guys. Miami's defense thrives against that. They could sit there and they can hold guys when they're starting to post up, like they get against Doncic, and then throw a double at him, and you don't have a Jokic who's going to throw a 3-time skip pass across the court for an open 3. Like, they don't have that. I think Miami definitely wins this one, and I think Duncan Robinson 6+ threes.
I like the Heat tonight fairly comfortably. If I wasn't going to be the building, I would say that even with more emphasis. But I'm totally with you on the Westbrook thing. I feel like his ball domination plays right into this defense's hands. It's tailor made for the Heat defense. Ricky, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, this Heat team is a pretty solid Heat team at this point. I don't think they lose to the Lakers tonight. The Lakers have struggled just to escape, not only beat, but escape much lesser teams on paper. This is not the kind of team that you can escape from. This defense is not one to be messed with. As long as Jimmy, Kyle, and hopefully Bam are able to go and be healthy and play their game, this Lakers team won't be able to overcome it. I'll be shocked if the Lakers win tonight. But then again, this is the NBA. Anything's possible.
All right, so all 5 of us are picking the Heat tonight, which is never a good sign. I think the last time that happened, they lost. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Jonathan.
I always pick
Malik,
the Heat. So
Malik Monk.
You guys
No,
know
well,
the deal.
Malik, this could be a Malik. Although I will say this, they've handled the random scrub Heat killers this year. They have handled, when they handle Ish Smith, they can handle anybody. They handle Dylan Brooks too. Thanks to Ricky, thanks to Brady, thanks to Jonathan, thanks to Greg. I'll be out here both nights. Again, prizepicks.com. Use that code 5, markbrownpa.com, and of course, Biscayne Bay Brewing. Follow all the other content on the channel. No extra yard tonight for Dolphin fans, but they will be doing pre and post game off them getting absolutely hammered by the Ravens at home tomorrow night. So if you want to catch that, you can do that as well. We'll be back tomorrow night for Before Floor. The time tomorrow night is a 10:30 start, so it'll be a 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. I'm trying to change my whole mind frame on this tomorrow night. Have a good one.
Clutch Corner.
That's right.
Thank you, Ricky. Ricky is so great that he just told me that I was muted. So I was telling you guys that you should join us for the Paces and Spaces during halftime. So you guys can join us there as soon as the second quarter is over. We're gonna be there on Twitter, also doing the Paces and Spaces. Let's today, since we don't have all the press conferences because of what happened in Denver. Let's read some of you guys' comments before we listen to Eric Spoelstra and then listen to part of the podcast with George or Jorge Sedano. All right, let's continue here. All right, Rai Julie says, I feel this team will be harder to reshuffle during the season because who are gonna take half of these guys? I don't know. What's he talking about? Judah Baraka said Markieff Morris fined 50,000 for the altercation last night. Jimmy Butler was also fined 30,000 for attempting to escalate the altercation because of what happened after the game. Marcus Hart, LeBron still trying to create heat culture in another city. Not happening in Los Angeles. Show Brady Bill Cartwright's jumper. His ego is too big. Zachary, thank you. League Pass not gonna have the game tonight. The game is on ESPN. Our friend Jason, thank you very much for your $5, Jason. So I thought we were supposed to get the BAM lip this year. What's happening? Good subject. We're gonna let the guys talk about it later. I know it hasn't been the greatest season so far, especially and going back to that Denver game. I wouldn't like to see a more aggressive BAM before whatever happened, because we saw all of them in the tunnel and that picture that the guys talked about, but I didn't see a very aggressive BAM on the offensive side. So we'll see if he can figure it out tonight against the Lakers. Give us some price picks. So let's review some of the price picks that you guys can play tonight. Let's go to price picks. You click on NBA right there, top left corner, and you're gonna have, let me see who's available there. Jimmy Butler in points, 23.5. Bam Adebayo 17, Tyler Hero 17, Duncan Robinson 13.5 points. Those are the Miami Heat guys in points. And rebounds, if you go to price picks, Jimmy Butler 6.5, Bam Adebayo 9.5, Tyler Hero 4.5, and Duncan Robinson 3.5. Those are the options in rebounds. You can also play assist. So you have for the Lakers or the Heat, you have Anthony Davis 3, Jimmy Butler 6, Russell Westbrook 10, and Tyler Hero 3 as well. Let's continue. And the next one is 3 points made. For tonight's game, you have Jimmy Butler 0.5. So if he makes 1 and you play the over, you're good. Then you have Tyler Hero and then Duncan Robinson 3.5. That's the line right there. Free throws made, another one that you can play. Jimmy Butler 6, Anthony Davis 5, Russell Westbrook 3.5. Some of the options, and then you have the fantasy score, which you can also play, and it's Anthony Davis 50 points, Jimmy Butler 43 points. This is adding all the different stats. It's not just points per se. It's a fantasy score. Russell Westbrook 45.5, Bam Adebayo 40.5, Carmelo Anthony 26. That would be a good one, in my opinion, to play right there. And Tyler Hero 31. Another one that seems a little low to me. So those are two that you guys can go ahead and play on prizepicks.com or using the PrizePicks app. And remember to use the promo code 5FIVE to get a 100% match on your deposit. Let's continue reading some of your guys' comments. I see us coming up empty tonight, but I hope I'm proven wrong. And tonight and tomorrow night, the Miami Heat are going to be playing right there in Los Angeles tomorrow night against the Clippers. Watch the game on Stream East. Marcus Hart. Ricky, the Knicks are getting smoked. Thanks. Our friend Twisted Tapioca. Tony says Caleb getting back down by Jokic gives me PTSD for him. Bahamian Heedle says, will Westbrook give us trouble? Well, what do you guys think? Hell no, says your friend Young OG. Adam selling you all short. Duncan lost me too much money already. Yes, I bet it's going to be that day when nobody plays him and then he goes off. Adrian says that Clippers game will be a fight. Should really endeavor to get this one tonight. No Bam or Hero. Let me see. if the Miami Heat has posted anything about these two players so far. Let me check real quick here. We're live, so we have to be checking all of this information as we go. Let me check real quick here. Miami Heat. And here we go. We have a picture of where PJ Tucker, one focus. That was 4 hours ago. Nothing new yet there. So we'll have to wait. Our friend Poetic Lifestyle. Jason says no super chat love. Sorry, Jason, we didn't get to it, but I saved the question, so I'm gonna give it to the guys for the next one, and they'll probably do a podcast on it on the beginning from Bam Adebayo this season. Brady always saying it's a Duncan game every time. Getting my hopes up. He didn't do it this season until tonight, so hopefully that works, and hopefully tonight's Duncan's game. When's Duncan supposed to go off? He doesn't. Ethan, read the super chat. Sorry, that was my fault. I apologize. I didn't put it up, so Ethan didn't see it. So that was my fault. Why you guys don't make it in the NBA? And then when everyone plays bad, Duncan plays good. Can't have both. Melo giving us a nice 20-piece McNuggets. Markieff not there to hold him. We're not losing this game. Adrian says, gotta read the super chat. Sorry, we're sorry. That's my fault. My fault. I repeat it. It was my fault. What's the start lineup tonight? It should be the same one as we have been using. So it should be Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and PJ Tucker. But we'll see. We still don't have that information from the Miami Heat. So let's see what happens. Can hear you. That was earlier tonight. No mics. Thank you, Lynette, our sponsor for the post-op show, which is going to be right after the game. So we want to invite you to stay there or to come back and go back to the post-op as soon as the game's over. So this is the schedule. We have the pregame show, and we're going to go right here to listen to Eric Spoelstra, and then we're going to listen to part of the podcast from or with Jorge Sedano, or George Sedano, as you want to call him. And then we're going to be ready to watch the game. At halftime, we're gonna be doing pace and spaces on Twitter. So make sure you follow our friends over there, Sean, Marco, Tony. They're gonna get you a good show there at halftime. Then post up, hosted by Royal Shepherd. That's gonna be very late. As soon as the game's over, they're gonna be going live at that time. There you go. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you very much. Our friend Tony's over here. Thank you. And then M-Dub says, I need a Heat player to volunteer to drop kick Joker with both feet in his chest the next time they play. Well, he'll probably get a 2-game or 4-game suspension or something like that. If Jokic got only 1 game, you know what's going to happen now, no? I mean, it's only 1 game, so might as well go for it. I'm more scared of my cat when he's hungry than whenever he is from Westbrook. Well, I don't know. Westbrook, don't poke him too much. IMAX says, I played Duncan in the 2 game DK's late, and he laughs. NFL Nick says, here's absolutely the 6th man of the year. Hopefully that's the case. Rafael Rodriguez says, when's not coming back? Not to the Heat. So I don't know. I'm not sure, Rafael. Like our friend NFL Nick says, not tonight. So thank you very much for joining us. Now we're going to listen real quick to what Eric Spoelstra had to say after that Denver Nuggets loss a couple of nights ago at Denver, and then we're gonna go ahead and listen to the full, not full the episode, but part of the episode with George Sedano. Let's begin with Eric Spoelstra. Here we go.
Eric, the game itself, did it just feel a step behind, or really on both ends? It just seemed like you were off what you had been before.
Yeah, that's probably an efficient way to say it. Plays that were there to be made, we weren't really making those plays on either end until the fourth quarter with real force and focus.
We could see several times, especially when they made each new call timeouts, that you were sort of upset. Was it generally with the way the guys were doing things, or was it just the effort, or sort of why was
it was a little bit all the above. I mean, we never able to get traction on the game, and some of the turnovers early on, lack of detail, offensively, hurt us, but then defensively, we just never grabbed control of the game. and like I said, doing things with force and focus until that fourth quarter.
Jimmy and the way he played, trying to keep you afloat. It seemed like he did, especially the first 2 quarters, everything he could to still keep it a game. Your thoughts on his effort?
That was about one of the only bright spots we had, offensively, getting the ball to him and allowing him to create some plays. But overall, our offense, obviously was not good enough.
And then on the other hand, Kyle going scoreless. Was there anything particularly there, or was it just a guy off of the shots, or the lack of continuity?
Yeah, I think just overall offensively we weren't very good, and so a lot of our guys weren't able to get in great rhythm.
And then at the end, we saw Markieff ran on the side, looked like a little bit of an elbow to Jokic, and obviously the shove back. One, beyond the play itself, there seemed to be a very high level of concern when the stretcher came out and the way he was hurting. What were your thoughts in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we just want to make sure that Keith, was and is okay. We'll find out more. He's moving around, right now in the locker room, but that was a very dangerous, dirty play. I thought Keith took a foul, and it was, one of those fast break take fouls, and he did with his shoulder. You might deem that, maybe as a little bit more, than just slapping somebody. But after I watched it on film, it was a take foul. That's how I saw it. And the play, after that, that's just absolutely uncalled for. And it would have looked a lot different. This whole thing could have been a whole lot uglier if Markieff was actually facing Jokic. The fact that he had his back turned and he made a play like that, blindsiding him, that's just a very dangerous play.
Did you in any way think that was a flagrant 2 foul?
I thought it was everything. Whatever you can do.
No, the one Markieff.
No, I thought it was a take foul. I just watched it. At the time of it, I thought it was a physical take foul, but certainly not a flagrant 2.
The stretcher was brought out, obviously, but to see Markieff walk it up and walk
Yeah.
with his own power.
Yeah, and he's moving around, right now. But we'll do the necessary tests, whatever we need to do just to make sure that he's okay.
Eric, with the new way of the world, we can't go back there and see how everybody is doing and feeling. What is the mood of your guys after what happened there at the end of the game?
Do you see our guys? Yeah, the video and picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay.
All right, that was Eric Spoelstra right after that Denver Nuggets Miami Heat game that you guys, we've all been talking about the Jokic and Morris play, and it was just unbelievable how he only got one game as a suspension, only one game for all that he did. But here we go. So here we go. Jose Matos says, Arriba el Heat, hoy no duerme nadie. That's right. Today we don't sleep, or we're going to go sleep really, really late because we're going to watch this what should be a good game between the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. IMAX says, let the trousers back in the game. Shake my head. And then November 19, Nicola, we're waiting for you and your sisters. Ooh, it's getting hot here in Miami. We're going to be waiting for them for sure. And hopefully I can go to that game. Let me see. No, they're not. Ethan, Brady, Alex, they're going to be fighting to see who's going to cover the team. And we only have 2 spots per game. So I'm not gonna be there, but we'll bring you all the information we can of how is that atmosphere that day on November 29th when the Miami Heat receives the Denver Nuggets visit here in FTX Arena. Denver, no rings, 56 in 56 years. Jermaine King says, I was more pissed off at how Bam played than the Jokic play. I agree with you. I was not more pissed, but I was also a little bit concerned about it, because he definitely did not show his best face that day. Our friend Jose Matos, late. Yes, we're going to be up late tonight, so that's going to be tonight. So let's continue now with our pregame show. Like I said, since we don't have as many press conferences as we actually always do, now we're going to do what we're going to do is we're going to play part of the podcast that Ethan Skolnick and Alex Toledo did with George Sedano, talking a little bit about the Lakers, a little bit about the Miami Heat, a little bit about everything that's going on around the NBA, and a little bit of the Sixers. We'll see if we have time to finish that part out. So, Enzo, last message before we play the podcast, and we also have the starting lineup is the same one that we have been using so far. So Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, and Kyle Lowry. That's a starting 5 for the Miami Heat. Enzo says, I like the Heat spread at 5.5. The only game they haven't won by more than 10 was to the Jazz, and we should have won that game by that much. So thank you very much, Enzo. And then we're going to continue now with the George Sedano podcast with Ethan Skolnick and Alex Toledo. Here we go. Enjoy it.
Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for them together. The code is 5, F-I-V-E. If you're looking for daily fantasy, you go to prizepicks.com. Use that code. You're going to we've got NBA, we've got NHL, and of course still the NFL. You want to make that Thursday night game between the Dolphins and the Ravens interesting, you might want to go to betus.com. So code 5 at PrizePicks, code 5 at BetUS. And now, today's episode.
Down the bitch gang. Yeah. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat, we trust. It's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I've got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. And for what I believe is the 6th, 7th, 8th, I don't know, 12th time, we've got George Sedano. You can follow him with one name, just like Madonna, at Sedano. He's in Los Angeles. I'm actually probably going to see him this week because I'm going out to Los Angeles. I apologize to all Heat fans for this. I will be at the Clippers and the Lakers games, or the Lakers and the Clippers games in that order, as the Heat road trip continues. Their first game was in Denver, of course. We had a watch party. I don't know if that's why they lost, but they got hammered from the beginning. And then, of course, Morris and Jokic hammered each other. And since then, the last 24 hours have been crazy on Twitter. We're going to react to that a little bit here with George. We've got the Morris brothers going at the Jokic brothers and vice versa, waiting for the Plumlees to weigh in. It has been a bleep show, and I'm just wondering how long this is going to continue. But we're going to talk today with George about a lot of things around the league. We're going to start with this Heat situation. George, your view on what happened last night between Jokic and Morris and the Heat's reaction to it.
By the way, normally I would blame you for the loss with your watch party because we all know that that's like a curse and a dead giveaway. But they also, as you know, historically are pretty terrible in Denver. So I won't put this one solely on your shoulders. But look, Marcus Morris, was he a little extra? Sure.
No, Markieff. Marcus has been more extra today.
I'm sorry. Yes, Markieff. Is Markieff Morris a little extra on the foul? Did he throw a little elbow in there? Yes. Was he probably annoyed about what had transpired a little earlier in the game? Yes. But what Jokic did was inexcusable, okay? And by the way, I also think that something that's not been discussed anywhere today when discussing this is the fact that Jeff Green came out yesterday in the postgame and said he didn't think what Markieff did was all that bad. And he was surprised, I'm paraphrasing, about the way the Joker handled it. But, their teammates, blah, blah, blah. But he kind of sort of took up for Markieff. So I don't understand why this has to be. Well, I guess I do understand because we live in this tribalistic world all of a sudden where everyone's got to pick a side, take a side. But it's just ridiculous to me that that part just doesn't get discussed anywhere, that his own teammate, Jokic's own teammate, he overstepped his bounds. So everyone who saw that what Jokic did with Markieff's back turned to him is not the way you should handle it. But I'll give Jokic credit for this. He's smart, man. He was remorseful at that press conference. And because of that, he's probably going to get a little lighter sentence on the punishment than he would have normally gotten.
Wow. So you think it was strategic?
Hell yeah. Come on, man. Are you kidding? For sure it was. Like, do I think he was remorseful? Probably. But I mean, I also think he's being smart. And I'm sure if I were Denver, I would have told him that too. I would have been like, yo, just be remorseful. That way we don't miss any, you don't miss any games, or maybe you miss a game or two. Because think about it, there's not even an NBA punishment czar anymore. The person who was in charge, whose name for whatever reason just escaped me, left last year. And that position hasn't been replaced. So this is going to be an Adam Silver decision one way or another.
So we know, okay, so, and then I'll let Alex weigh in on this again. So we know if it was LeBron, there would be no suspension at all. And we know that there's a star system in the NBA. Where is Jokic? I mean, he's the reigning MVP, but he's not a media, draw in any way. He doesn't really have, the internet, even though he's international, he doesn't have the international profile of a lot of the other players.
I thought you were going to say,
do you think that weighs in? How do you think his status or lack of it or whatever plays into what the decision is going to be?
I mean, he's the reigning MVP. So if you're going to get star treatment, this is the time to get star treatment, right? But I think because it looked bad, right? Like, it looked bad. Like, you can't not punish him in some way, shape, or form. Now, do I think he's going to get 5 games? Probably not. Get a game, maybe 2, probably. That, if I had to guess, that'll be the case.
What do you make of the Heat's reaction to it? I mean,
oh my God, I loved it, every second of it. Like that is exactly what I think this team needs to be.
But do you think it was real, George? I guess that because some are saying, okay, Jimmy was right next to Jokic and he didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden he's on the other side and he's going out.
Well, he wasn't looking.
Right.
He was running the other direction. He didn't see any of it happen until it was over. So, I mean, again, there's video here. Like, you can literally see where everybody was on the floor. The only person who saw it right in front of their face was Tyler.
Right.
And Tyler immediately went to go 10 to Markieff. So I think that, whatever, dude. I think that the way they handled it, I loved it. I think basketball's been missing some of that. And this team is okay being villains. And they don't have a problem with it. They're a bunch of dogs, dude. Like, it's funny, in my group chat with Amino Hassan and Izzy and Zach Harper and Mike Ryan and a couple people, we talk about it. Like, they make fun of me because I call them a bunch of dogs. And this team is full of dogs. And they are. They're just, the Adonis Haslam quote, right? The kennel, exactly the way I would have expected.
It's interesting to watch. I feel like the fan reaction ever since all of this happened late last night, admittedly, right? So everybody had kind of delayed reactions that wasn't already up. And frankly, to me, NBA Twitter has kind of embarrassed themselves reacting to this because, like you said, George, you hinted at it. Everybody's just kind of taking sides on it. It's a little bit, lacking nuance. Everything that happens, it's like everybody can agree that there's levels to this, right? The foul that Morris hit Jokic with was not on the same level whatsoever to what Jokic did to Markieff. And then you talk about all the stuff going on, like I said, with the fans and just the reaction where everybody's talking about, the Jokic brothers versus the Morris brothers. And I don't know, to me, it's taken a lot of weird, let's just say, perspectives there with NBA media and NBA fans specifically, because it just feels like everybody's just kind of rooting for whoever they like. It feels a little bit too wrestling-like for me. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable, to be honest. But to me, the story of the game was Jokic before he did all that, right? He looks better than he ever has, despite having just one MVP. And this is the one guy, and I didn't say this on pod last night, but this is the one guy who I secretly feel like Bam is going to continue struggling with. I feel like Bam can guard just about anybody in the league. And Jokic is the one dude, just because of the size, because of the fact that he has the skills to counter pretty much anything and everything you throw at him. It's just a constant mismatch for not only Bam, but just about everybody. But Bam specifically, because we know he doesn't have that type of size to also counter with what Jokic brings to the table as just like an offensive mind. Do you think anything we saw from the game last night is concerning going forward for the Heat as far as the half-court offense, being able to guard guys who are mismatches like Jokic, anything like that? Any long-term takeaways for the Heat?
Not really. To be honest with you, I mean, he's just a really tough guard, right? I mean, he's big, he's slippery, he's got all sorts of crazy skills. It's a very unique skill set that he possesses. I just don't know if Bam is equipped to handle him. As athletic as he is, as sharp as he's been defensively. I just think the size part of it will always be a problem.
Let's get into Bam and the start beyond just Jokic, though. And then let's talk about it in the context of the Heat start. I think that we all agreed on 5 on the floor that for this team to take a jump, it was going to be led by Bam. That pretty much, I mean, Jimmy's playing at a very high level, but you kind of knew what you were going to get. You didn't know exactly how Kyle would decide to fit in with this team, but you knew it would be positive. And again, there's a track record with him for 15 years. Again, the hero thing we'll talk about here a little bit on the side. But when you look at Bam and kind of the ascent to a possible consensus top 10 to 15 player, what is missing at this stage? Because I feel like we see it some nights, and then again last night, maybe it was just Jokic, but it's not there all the time.
I think it's just he suffers from lack of aggression, I think sometimes, right? Like, I don't know if it's just because for so long he was a role player, in college particularly, and then as he's come up with this team, it feels like they're always trying to extract this aggression out of him. And sometimes he shows it and sometimes he doesn't. So, I mean, that's really the only thing I can pinpoint, because he's got the skill set. And look, yeah, he could get better at shooting the ball and maybe even finishing. Although this year he's done a nice job finishing, I feel like, just without looking at the numbers. But that has been a struggle at times around the rim in his career, particularly when he was younger. I think the range will come, but the aggression, that's just something he's got to do on his own,
Are they a legit championship contender in your view? 7-3 through the first 10
Yes.
games. Okay.
Yes. They're a championship contender. The only thing I worry about them is their depth. I think that, you get worn down over the course of a season. They're like 1 or 2 players away from being like, they're going to be like, they're 1 or 2 players away. And I mean like a couple role players away from being legitimately like a top 3 to 5 title favorite, in my opinion.
So you don't think that, say, Strus, Martin, some of the others on there are enough? And where does the Oladipo thing fit into it for you?
I mean, look, man, the biggest predictor of future injury is past injury. So I need to see Oladipo be healthy for a long stretch of time before I feel like I can count on him. In theory, yes, he's one of those type of players. I still also think that they need I'm not counting on him. So let's push him aside for a second. If he's not available to be him, which, let's face it, nobody can make that determination at this point. They need, and I'm just naming players, okay? I'm not saying that it's this particular player, but a player like this. They need a Terrence Ross type, kind of an athletic wing who can defend a little and certainly shoot the ball, but do a little more than shoot, can do it off the bounce a little bit. And they could use another big, particularly to, they've done a nice job rebounding as a group, but just another big to just help. It's always nice to have like a third guy. I feel like, no disrespect to Omer Yurtseven, but just someone that they can count on that can be kind of like just another guy to break glass in case of emergency. I would feel good if they had that.
We're going to get to some other things here around the NBA in a second. Before we do, want to tell you about another sponsor, the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's our friends over at CPT of South Florida. Go to CPT-Florida. This is where you go to get all of your IT needs met. So whether you run a business or you just want to make friends with a boss, reach out to TJ. That's TJ at cpt-florida.com. Been helping small and medium businesses save money on their monthly phone and internet costs for years, and they and yet we were kind of laughing. I know you're going to challenge me on that, but we were kind of laughing at the Sixers before the season, right? Everything that was going on, and they're a top 3 team in the East to start. How?
Well, Embiid is really damn good, right? Like, let's start with that. He probably would have been the MVP had he not gotten hurt last year. And look, they've done a nice job with their talent, right, and their roster. Tyrese Maxey was a kid that I was around during the draft and during his draft process. I spent some time with him because him and Anthony Edwards, who was the #1 overall pick, had a they share an agent in common in Rich Paul. So I did a feature last year about Anthony Edwards for the draft, or now 2 years ago, whatever it was. But and Tyrese Maxey was there working out with him all the time. And I got a chance to know the young man, and I actually put him in the feature because I felt like he was that interesting and that compelling. And I felt like whoever got him was going to get a good player. I thought the Heat were going to try to get him personally. But it was Philadelphia who ended up getting him. And if you just look at their roster, like, Tobias is a good player. Like, if you have Tobias on your team, like, he's going to fill up the stat sheet, right? Like, you don't think so? Like, I mean, I think so. I know he's been a little dinged up this year, but he's a good player. And I'm trying to think what he had. He's like a 50, this year's like, I know it's only 9 games or whatever it's been, or I think he only played like 5 or 6, but he's like 20 points a game, which is generally what he gives you. He's like over 50% shooting, and like, he defends enough. But he's like a decent wing option. Actually, I shouldn't disrespect him. He's not a decent wing option. He's a good wing option. He's not a great wing option, and people always factor in the contract when they talk about that stuff. But from a fit perspective, he works perfectly with Joel, and they've gotten shooting, right? I think this year. Korkmaz, who is a guy they've developed for the last couple of years, has done a nice job. Danny Green is shooting the ball really well to this point. I mean, even Embiid is shooting the ball really well from distance. Seth Curry obviously is fantastic. And Maxey is about a 37% three-point guy. So the guys around Embiid are defending their asses off, and they're shooting the ball really well. So that's how they're doing it. And honestly, I'm really not surprised that they're a top 4 team. I mean, they, arguably the best team in the East. I guess, I don't know what the standings look like right now after they lost to the Knicks, but I do think they have a tough stretch here without Embiid, perhaps up to 10 days. So they're going to fall down the pack a little bit, but they're going to be right in that top 4 mix the whole season, I think, because even without Ben, they've got players who will defend and shoot the ball well.
So, George, I actually agree with you on pretty much everything you said there. I think there's no doubt about it that the Sixers are great, absolutely great regular season proposition. But just like we always talk about with the Sixers, and not to just, fast forward too much, but this is what we're doing when we're trying to cover a lot of different bases here, and we're getting to the end of the show. The Sixers are something that's still to be questioned in the playoffs. And although I don't disagree with you, like Maxey, they're getting a lot of good production out of him. Their shooting has been really damn good without Simmons there. They haven't really missed him too much. Even though their defensive rating hasn't been elite, it's still pretty good. Their offensive rating has actually been very, very good. It's actually elite right now. So even with some regression, they seem like a great regular season proposition. But in the playoffs, Tobias Harris, we've seen that regression where he goes from a good wing option to maybe one that's just never consistently efficient. They seem to lack a lot of plays in the half court other than just getting the ball through Embiid and making something happen from there, finding shooters or him getting to the line, which obviously is a great, is something that they can rely on a lot. It feels like there's something missing still for the Sixers. And with that, I just want to...
By the way, I would push back a little bit.
Would you still rather be the Sixers, George?
No, I'm pushing back on the Tobias thing. Tobias shot 50% from the field in the series against Washington, and then and shot 48% from the field against Atlanta in a 7-game series, and shot, I think, 37 combined in the postseason last year from 3. So, yeah, I would push back on that. They lost last year because Atlanta shot the lights out in that series, and Ben Simmons had a terrible series. That's just it. That's what it came down to. I mean, not 100%, but when you're talking about razor thin margins, Alex, and that's what we're talking about in a 7-game series, one of your stars having a bad series is going to probably cost you a series.
For sure. And
I don't even look like when Jimmy Butler and everybody imploded against Milwaukee. They couldn't even win a damn game. Like, of course that's going to happen if one of your guys isn't playing well.
Well, if we're going to compare those two, we could talk about context, but specifically back to the Sixers here, I just want to ask you.
Wait, well, go ahead. Let's talk about context.
No.
Let's talk
because I don't want to go away from the point that I was going to ask you here. It was just specifically about last season versus the Hawks in that conference finals. You subtract Simmons and you get pretty much the roster that they have right now.
All right, that was part of the podcast with George Sedano. If you want to go ahead and listen to the whole episode, you can do it on the 5 Reasons, whatever you get your podcast. And we're going to be posting the actual edited version here in the YouTube channel probably tomorrow, early tomorrow. And that would be it. So thank you very much for all of you that are joining us here for the post-game show. For all of you that have just got here, we have the same starting lineup: Bam Adebayo, PJ Tucker, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, and Kyle Lowry. That's going to be the starting 5 for the Miami Heat, the 5 on the floor. And you can listen to 5 on the floor as soon as the game is over, or tomorrow morning if that's your preference. You can also join us for the halftime show in Pace and Spaces, and then for the post-game show and at the post up here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. So let's read some of you guys' comments, and then let's say goodbye and let's get ready for that Miami Heat versus Los Angeles Lakers game that should be playing around 10 something, the TV times, and especially when ESPN does it. So here we go. Let's read some of you guys' comments that didn't come up as we were talking about it. Joseph Blanco, gotta give it the Poundits, though. Morris shouldn't take it the bad. Well, they're talking about that play. Joker had a great game. Okay, nobody can play like him against us. This is the Alonso, UD, and Pat team. We have to fight on November 29th. They're talking about that Jokic play, and now talking about a little bit about the podcast with Sedano. I agree 100% with Sedano. Bam does play like a role player. Yes, we're still waiting for that particular moment when he's going to take over as one of the leaders, and this year should be that leap. We're waiting for it. Miami will win it all this year. I'm not worried. He's being paid like a superstar. Talking about Adebayo. Is Hero playing? Yes, he's available. He should be playing tonight. Tyler Hero's most improved player so far. I got Jordan says, I bet you anything I don't have that Jokic will not come to play in Miami next week. That's going to be November 29th. So it's not going to be next week. It's actually 19 days from today. So we're still ways to go for that particular game. Next one, we have Jose Matos. I remember a lot of Heat fans, including me, happy and ready to trade Hero for Sexton. Thanks, Pat, never listening to us. So thank you, Jose. Jermaine King says NBA won't allow anything to happen. Hero 6-man. Well, I mean, the NBA can go so far. So with that 1 game suspension, they actually, I think they put even a little bit more fire to or gas to the fire, because now the Heat players are going to say, you know what, I'll just foul anybody as hard as I can, and what are they going to do to me? Just 1 game suspension. If they give me more, that's going to be a different level of sanction. I don't know, or suspension. I don't know. That's going to be a hot topic. Hero 6-man. Is LeBron playing? No, he's not playing tonight. He's still injured. Don't know Miami culture. Then we're going to focus on LeFlop today. LeFlop is not playing today, so don't worry about him. Miami wins today by, well, hopefully by 10 or something. He cut it off on the Hawks talk. People hate the Hawks. Jose Matos saying goodbye. Good night, everyone. IMAX, thank you. IMAX, can you feel the Heat down in your soul? Yes, we're ready for the game. And who's playing tonight for the Heat? As I said, the starting lineup, Seiko is going to be Bam Adebayo, the same one that they have been using when everybody is healthy. Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, and Kyle Lowry. That's a starting 5. And our friend Kedolo says, I got Miami -4. Thank you very much for joining the pregame show today. Again, the invitation is for you guys to come by during halftime. If you're still awake, halftime, join us on Pace and Spaces on Twitter. That's going to be live. Marco, Tony, Sean, they have you over there. They got your back for the best 15-minute halftime show. Don't stay with that TV crap, especially ESPN. Come here with the 5 Reasons and join us, and we're sure we're going to give you a better show, especially because we are going to talk Miami basketball. We're not going to talk about the Lakers. Miami in 4. UD very reasoning for being on this team is to strike vengeance and fury on Joker. Great job, Alejandro. Thank you our Jazz. We're trying to do the best, trying to create the best content for you guys to enjoy the Miami teams here on 5 Reasons. So thank you very much. Remember, Pace and Spaces, and then the post-up show hosted by Royal Shepherd as soon as the game's over. Have a good night. Enjoy the game, and we will see you back here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Have a good one. Enjoy it.